Chinese prompts us to laugh, sometimes uncomfortably, at the painful or awkward experiences of certain characters. Because the experiences are not as amusing for the characters who suffer through them, or for people who may suffer through the same experiences in real life, do you think this humor, the use of this humor, is appropriate?
I think that the use of humor is appropriate. I think in other things, like comic relief is used oftentimes like in really tough movies or topics to be talked about. So I think it makes it easier to talk about. Like on page 50 when Chinky has just arrived and he's talking about like the binding the feet and all the, like this typical stereotypes. I think people don't know that that's something to be aware of, like that we use, and so I think the laughing also just makes it more known that like she's just using that to show that like we use those stereotypes. And also I think at least this book gets you talking about them versus like just ignoring the fact that they're there. So I think it's okay.
I think we were expected to see stereotypical views in this book, and that's just why like a lot of the things that we saw in the book weren't as funny. And I feel like in other ways that people use the laughter at the bottom of the panel, like I think of like TV shows, how they have the laughing in the background, like 2.5 Men. Whenever like Charlie would do something stupid, they'd always have laughing in the background, and I'd like even if you laugh or don't laugh, you just know that it's supposed to be funny. Page 45 shows like Danny drooling over his girlfriend, and that wasn't really like stereotypical, so I just kind of thought that was funnier than the other areas where they expect you to laugh. And I think this type of humor is appropriate just to improve like the view of the character himself, not like appropriate for the fact that it's like a stereotype.
I also feel like the stereotypes like in this book are like the most important part, because like that, like the stereotypes with like Jin that he's Asian is like the reason why he wants to become more white, and like with Danny being related to Chin Ki. Like on page 124, Melanie tells Danny that he has buck teeth, which is a stereotype of Asian people, and like I feel like that's like one of the main issues that Danny has is like him being like compared to Chin Ki, even though he's like white, but like he is still stereotyped that way.
I think the humor is fine in the book because a lot of times, like jokes, they're like supposed to make something that's not generally funny, and so in this book it's kind of like it's making jokes about race, and so it's trying to like make light of that, something that is really not funny at all, and that's almost like what all of the humor in the book is based on, is these Chinese stereotypes. So to me it's fine, especially because the writer himself is Asian too, so I think like he's meaning for this to be funny, like, and you can tell just because of how played up the stereotypes are, especially with Chin Ki.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. Like, I think the humor in this book is appropriate as long as it doesn't cross that line. And also, the humor made this book a lot more enjoyable to read.
I agree with what Nick and Joe said. I think it is needed, but like it's like an uncomfortable type humor. Like some people might giggle, but then you'll immediately feel guilty for it. Like on page 118, when Chin Ki like said like "we Chinese meat play joke, me go pee pee" in his Coke, and kind of giggled. Then I felt bad for it.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like in the one that we watched. My kid would never do that or anything. Like the kids laughed; they didn't really like want to laugh when the actors would say like really racist things or like discriminatory things, but like they did because that's just kind of like how it is in our culture. I think the book just kind of like showed that.
Yeah, see, like, I think the humor in the book, like, it went along with what normal graphic novels are. Like, usually graphic novels are kind of funny. And, like, but I don't think it was necessary to tell the story. Because, like, on page, like, 134, it was, like, the monk guy, Wang Lai Cao, and he was just, like, picking his ear. And, like, it's just, like, one of those funny things. But, like, it wasn't necessary. It didn't, like, prove a point or, like, add to the story. But, like, in other moments when, like, you're laughing at, like, Chin Ki and stuff, like, I think it makes a point in that type that, like, discrimination is, like, all around us. Like, you laugh at that because, like, it's funny. It's discrimination. That's what we grew up as. And it just kind of proves a point that it's easy to laugh at people that are different. And it's just, like, it makes that point to me.
Yeah, I said it's appropriate because they're not necessarily things we should be laughing at, but they still are funny, especially in our society, the way we have things set up. That's just what people do all the time. And I mean, sometimes it is okay to laugh at things like that because they're so exaggerated that that's what makes it funny. Like on page 114 when Chinky's eating the fried cat gizzards and you can see the cat head like sitting in his little thing. Like we know that's not what they're eating. Like they're not just gonna eat a fried cat head. So it's so exaggerated, which just makes it funny and okay to laugh at.
I agree with Emma said. I feel like you can't control like when to laugh or not because some things are kind of funny. Like in page 121 when those kids are like making like jokes about the way that Chinky's eyes were and they were like pulling their eyes back and there were people laughing in the background. I don't think that was something funny to laugh about, but I guess that's what like people usually laugh about, stuff like that.
Okay, so like, do you guys think that the humor in this book like took away from the message, or did it just add to it?
I feel like they added to the message. I mean, this is more of a topic that should be like serious, like in terms of racism and stuff. But I feel as if the humor in the book like kept the reader engaged, and like the whole thing reminded me of the movie Crash, where like the producer of that show or whatever, the director went like put him aside and started talking to him about like how the black character was talking to like correct and stuff, and like how he should dumb him down and stuff. And that just like reminded me of the Chinky thing and like how he's a stereotype and all that stuff.
I think the reason it adds meaning to the story, again, is kind of like what I said about how we laugh at the things, yet we know they're discriminatory or stereotypes. So I think it shows us that like how far like reaching that is into our society. So I think the fact that it was used as humor kind of perpetuates like the idea that it's a big problem for us.
Well, also it's like because the author intentionally made it into a joke, like with Chinky especially, it's easier to talk about. Cause like if it was just like, if it was trying to be just offensive towards Asian people like in general, you'd kind of like get a different message from the book. And I think that, so that's why he made it funny, just so, like you could actually talk about it and like, it's like not as in your face. Like they're just not straight up being racist. It's more so like he's trying to show kind of like how we don't just say like something really discriminatory to someone, you like make jokes about it, but it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it was kind of like similar to the show, like the What Would You Do, like the clips we watched. How like they didn't like straight out say like, I don't know, they didn't like mention like the colors of the skin. They just be like, oh, like he looks kind of like scary, like we should be afraid of him, like, but it didn't say like why. It's just like you just knew that that's what they were implying, and that's kind of how it like I feel like it is in the book.
I also feel like stereotypes and like racism and stuff are not like the easiest topic to talk about, and I think the humor kind of makes it like easier to talk about in the book. And they kind of like set it up from the very beginning. Like page 7 is the first page, and on that page that it's like when all the gods and goddesses are like at the party, and the lady's like holding the 2 peaches, and the guy like makes a joke about it. And I think just like from the very beginning, it like set up that it was going to be kind of like uncomfortable humor throughout the book.
All right, does anybody else want to talk about this question?